can't just download a personality like an app. Everyone tries, though. You see someone magnetic, sharp, funny, effortlessly confident, and your brain whispers, "I'll just do that." But when you try, something feels off. The jokes don't land. The confidence looks stiff. It's like wearing shoes that almost fit, but not quite. And still, we keep doing it. We scroll, we mirror, we imitate the vibe of people who seem whole. Because deep down, we're trying to fill a blank. Here's the twist. Borrowing someone's style isn't failure. It's the beginning of forming your own. Like tracing letters before handwriting, or humming along before you know the lyrics. So, maybe the real question isn't, how do I stop imitating, but how do I imitate better, consciously, until it becomes real? Because getting a personality isn't about pretending. It's about practicing who you might become. People talk about finding yourself like it's a treasure hunt. But most of us aren't missing gold. We're missing a mirror. We don't know who we are because we've never seen enough versions to choose from. Living authentically isn't about inventing something new. It's about imitating consciously until something starts to feel true. Like trying on outfits until one finally feels like you. It's not pretending, it's practicing. You copy gestures, jokes, tones, habits, not to deceive, but to debug. To see what runs smoothly in your system and what crashes immediately. Every personality begins as borrowed code. You take bits from people who move you, test them out, keep what fits. Slowly, you stop acting, because it's no longer an act. Authenticity isn't a static state. It's a moving target you calibrate by trial and error. And the funny thing? Everyone who seems original went through the same messy beta version first. Wait, you might say, isn't that fake? Shouldn't you just be yourself? Yeah, but what if you don't actually know what yourself feels like yet? You can't be something you've never practiced. Just like you can't improvise jazz if you've never learned a single chord. Think about it. Kids mimic their parents before developing their own personality. It's the first stage of learning how to be human. We grow by imitation first, authenticity later. And no one calls a musician fake for covering songs. They call them students. The goal isn't to live someone else's melody forever, but to learn rhythm and timing by borrowing theirs. So, no, copying isn't the enemy of authenticity. Blind copying is. Conscious imitation is apprenticeship. You're borrowing blueprints, not stealing houses. Eventually, your borrowed voice becomes fluent. And that's when people start saying, "Wow, you're so natural." Funny, because that natural took a lot of rehearsal. Here's where most people mess up. They copy the surface, not the structure. They take someone's style, humor, or aesthetic without understanding why it works for them. That's like taking a Ferrari engine and dropping it into a shopping cart. The parts look impressive, but the system can't handle it. You don't just wear confidence. You build the habits that sustain it. Look at social media. Millions of people copying cool, mysterious, or unbothered. But the math doesn't work. 1 in 10,000 actually pulls it off. The rest look like extras in someone else's movie. Because imitation without reflection turns you into a collage, not a person. Every copied trait needs a context, something in your life that gives it meaning. Borrowing personality isn't about replication. It's translation. You're adapting someone else's formula to your own language, your own rhythm. Otherwise, it's like wearing armor made for another night. Shiny, yes, but useless the moment you try to move. Let's talk about someone who literally borrowed himself into greatness. David Bowie. Before the world met Ziggy Stardust, Bowie was just a kid copying Elvis, Little Richard, and every other rock idol he admired. He mimicked their swagger, their tones, even their hair. But here's the key. He didn't stop at imitation. He experimented, blending pieces that didn't belong together until something new accidentally clicked. That accident became his signature. The lesson isn't be Bowie, it's start like Bowie started. Copy with intent, Treat mimicry like training wheels. You ride them until balance becomes muscle memory. Every artist, comedian, or leader you admire started this way. They borrowed bits, broke them apart, and rebuilt them. Originality is just iteration that survived embarrassment.
Yeah.
So when someone says,
For now.
"You're just copying," smile and say, "Yeah, for now." Because that's exactly what every great version of authentic did at first. If this were one of those sponsored self-help videos, this is where I'd say, be your best self. But let's skip the motivational fluff for a second. Because being your best self is vague. It's like telling someone to just breathe underwater. Sounds great, not very actionable. Instead, let's pause. Strip away the slogans and look at what's actually happening when you borrow a personality. You're experimenting with emotional code, testing which responses feel genuine, which feel forced. It's not manipulation, it's calibration. Every borrowed phrase, every borrowed habit is a reflection test. You're asking, does this version of me hold up in real life? And sometimes, it doesn't. You'll cringe at yourself. You'll delete the text. You'll feel like an actor who forgot the script mid-scene. That's okay. That's data. Because that awkwardness is the gap between imitation and integration. And closing that gap is how a borrowed voice becomes your own. Most people panic at the thought of imitation. I don't want to be fake. But being fake means pretending something's complete when it isn't. What you're doing is building, not faking. Think of imitation as scaffolding. It's not the building itself. It's the temporary frame that lets you climb higher than you could on your own. Without it, you'd never reach the next floor. Every skill, language, confidence, humor, starts as mimicry. You copy sounds before you speak. You copy jokes before you make your own friends laugh. It's the natural architecture of growth. The danger isn't imitation, it's permanence. The scaffolding's supposed to come down once the structure can stand. The problem is when people get attached to the scaffolding, when the borrowed image becomes their identity. So the trick is knowing when to thank your influences and let them go. You can't grow roots if you're still living in someone else's pot. You're not lost, you're loading. And the progress bar is moving, even when it doesn't look like it. Underscore. By end of score. People love a good shortcut. 2 steps to confidence. 3 habits for success. 5 hacks to find yourself. But personality doesn't download in 4K. It compiles. Slowly. You can't discover who you are in one retreat or one therapy session. You can't just flip a switch and become authentic. That's not how identity works. It's an ongoing experiment. There's a meme online. How to draw an owl. Step 1, draw 2 circles. Step 2, draw the rest of the owl. That's basically every self-help guide ever written. They skip the messy middle, the countless failed sketches, the weird proportions, the rough outlines that never see daylight. But that middle part is the process. So stop waiting for clarity to strike. Copy, fail, copy again, adjust, repeat. That's the real formula. You iterate yourself into existence. You can't draw your life in 2 steps. You can only keep sketching until one day you look down and realize the lines finally make sense. Dollars. Let's make this practical. You don't need a grand plan to become authentic. You need small, consistent tests, like mental A/B experiments for your personality. First habit, imitate with intent. Don't copy the look, copy the discipline behind it. If someone's confidence inspires you, watch how they prepare, not just how they talk. Study their process, not their pose. Second habit, document your shifts. Notice when you start behaving differently. Write it down, even if it feels small. I spoke slower today. I didn't apologize for existing. Tracking who you're becoming helps you separate the useful code from the bugs. You'll start seeing patterns. What's performative? What's permanent? Because evolution isn't sudden, it's logged. You can't see personality growth in the mirror, but you can read it in your notes. Unders. And over time, the borrowed traits fade into something seamless. You won't remember where you got them, only that they work, and they're yours now. So here's the challenge. This week, try being a borrowed version of yourself. Not fake, drafted. A prototype you're allowed to update without guilt. Underscore. Talk like the person you admire. Dress like the energy you wish you had. Move as if you already trust your instincts. Pretend you're auditioning for the role of you, and treat rehearsal like real life. Worst case, you uninstall the update. Best case, you realize the new version runs smoother than you thought. Underscored. Because growth isn't about deleting everything you borrowed, it's about rewriting it in your own syntax. You're not the sum of your influences. You're their remix. And if you ever catch yourself thinking, this feels forced, remember, everything feels forced before it becomes fluent. Even breathing did, once. Now go borrow boldly. Try new code. Update often. And hey, subscribe, or just copy me saying that until it feels natural.